Hey everyone, welcome back to the Incredible India podcast series. I'm Taylor, and I'm the guy who usually gets way too excited about a good story, especially when it turns everything I thought I knew upside down.
And I'm Sam. I'm here to try and keep that excitement, somewhat grounded in the facts and to help connect the dots on why those facts matter.
Grounded is actually the perfect word for today's deep dive because we are literally going into the ground.
We are.
We're digging into the red soil of Tamil Nadu to talk about a place called Keeladi, or Keeladi. You see both spellings.
That's right. It's an archaeological site on the banks of the Vaigai River. And for the longest time, this was just a coconut grove. Locals knew something was there, bits of pottery and so on, but the world didn't really pay attention.
Until recently.
Until the excavations began in earnest around 2014. And since then, it has become ground zero for a massive reevaluation of Indian history. And that's really the mission for this deep dive, isn't it? We aren't just looking at old bricks for the sake of it. We need to understand how this specific site completely shatters the traditional timeline.
It's a total disruption. To really get it, though, you have to remember the old map of history we all learned.
Right. The one that, flows from Mesopotamia and Egypt, then over to the Indus Valley in the northwest of the subcontinent, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro.
The first urbanization, around 2500 BCE. And then the story usually goes that the Indus Valley collapses, and then there's this long silence.
The famous Dark Age, a 1,000-year gap where supposedly not much is happening, at least in terms of cities.
And when cities do reappear, the so-called second urbanization, the focus is always on the Gangetic Plains in the north.
Right. And South India, in that story, is usually just a footnote. It's considered, pastoral, tribal, certainly not urban until much, much later.
That was the theory. A north-to-south flow of civilization. But Keeladi just flips that whole table over. The dating, the artifacts, they prove that a complex, urban, industrial, and literate society was thriving here in the 6th century BCE.
So at the same time as the big cities in the north.
At the very same time, and more than that, at the same time as classical Greece and early Rome. While Socrates was debating in Athens, people here were living in a highly organized city.
That is just wild to think about. Okay, so let's dig in. Section 1. What makes this a city? Because you can't just find a few huts and call it a metropolis.
Not at all. And what they found was definitive. We're talking about a planned urban settlement.
Planned is the key word, right?
It is. They uncovered clear structural engineering, fired brick houses, not just mud huts, standardized brick sizes, bonded with lime mortar. That points to organized production.
But I remember you saying the real smoking gun for archaeologists is always water.
It really is. It always comes down to plumbing. You don't build complex drainage for a temporary camp.
And they found it here.
They did. Terracotta ring wells, covered drainage channels leading out of homes, and even soak pits to filter wastewater. It shows a municipal mindset. It proves a dense, permanent population.
This is what challenges that Dark Age idea after the Indus Valley civilization collapsed.
Exactly. The old theory was that urban technology, like drainage, just died out and had to be reinvented 1,000 years later in the north.
But this suggests it didn't die, it just moved, maybe.
It evolved. It shows continuity.
Yeah.
And it was flourishing in the Tamil region way, way earlier than anyone thought.
It makes the story of India feel more like a continuous thread. But, bricks are great, drains are cool, but the thing that really blew my mind was something much smaller.
The pot charts.
Yes, the broken pottery. Because usually when you think of ancient writing, you picture a king carving a decree on a cliff face.
Right. Monumental inscriptions.
Yeah.
Propaganda, basically.
But at Keeladi, they found writing on, kitchenware.
This is probably the single most important find. Thousands of pottery shards with inscriptions in the Tamil-Brahmi script, which is the ancestor of modern Tamil.
And what do they say? Are they epic poems?
No, even better. They're just names, personal names. Ethan, Kutan.
So it's like writing your name on your coffee mug at the office.
That's a surprisingly perfect analogy. Think about what it means if a regular person, a potter or a merchant, is scratching their name onto a bowl.
It means they could read and write.
Yeah, exactly. It suggests widespread, common literacy. It wasn't some sacred skill locked away with priests or scribes. Scholars are calling it the democratization of literacy.
And this connects to the Sangam literature, doesn't it?
This is where it all snaps into place. Sangam literature is this incredible body of early Tamil poetry that describes these vibrant cities and trade. For a long time, historians sort of thought it was, poetic exaggeration.
Oh, the poet is just making it sound grander than it really was.
Precisely. But Keeladi is the physical proof. It's the archaeological receipt for the literary claims. The poets weren't fantasizing, they were describing their world.
It's like finding Troy and realizing the Iliad wasn't just a myth.
It's exactly that. It grounds the literature in a real, physical time and place.
But here's a curveball. Looking at the site maps, I noticed what wasn't there.
The silence in the data.
Yeah. Where's the palace? Where's the massive temple? No royal tombs. Nothing.
And that is the multi-million-dollar question. In most ancient civilizations, you see power concentrated. A king builds a huge palace, and the city grows around it.
But there's no structure at Keeladi that screams, I'm in charge.
Not a single one, which has led to a fascinating interpretation, that this was an egalitarian or at least a collectivist urban society.
That seems really advanced for 600 BCE.
It is. It suggests life revolved around trade, craft, and community cooperation, not a god king. Resources were spent on public utilities, like those drains, not on royal monuments.
And this isn't totally unique, is it? It reminds me a bit of what we know about the Indus Valley civilization.
It's a very strong parallel. Sites like Mohenjo-Daro also have this incredible organization, but no obvious palaces. It might point to a different, less autocratic model of civilization.
It's a powerful idea, and I think the notes mentioned a travel tip here, right?
Yes, that if you find this idea of a non-royal city compelling, you should also visit the Indus Valley sites of Lothal and Dholavira, which are accessible from Ahmedabad. You can see that same civic focus just thousands of years earlier. It's a fascinating comparison.
So it's a city built on social cooperation. And it was a busy one. They were making things, weren't they?
Oh, this was a major industrial hub, an economic engine. They found beads made from agate, carnelian, quartz, and not just the finished beads.
Ah, they found them in different stages of production.
Which proves they were the factory, not just the customer. Keeladi was an inland production center that was deeply connected to the coastal ports.
Ports that are mentioned in Roman texts, like the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea.
Exactly. That was a first-century merchant's guide. It talks all about the trade with Tamil ports. Keeladi was the workshop supplying those ports with high-value goods that were then shipped all the way to Rome.
And they found Roman artifacts at Keeladi itself.
They did. Rouletted ware, a type of pottery associated with the Mediterranean world. Roman coins. It firmly places this city on the map of global trade 2,500 years ago.
So I have to be the skeptic for a second. We're throwing around these huge dates. 6th century BCE. How do we actually know that? How can they be so sure?
That's the most important question. And the answer is hard science. This isn't guesswork based on pottery styles.
So radiocarbon dating.
Yes, and the best kind. AMS dating, accelerator mass spectrometry. They took organic samples found in specific, undisturbed layers of soil and sent them to a top lab in Florida.
So it's internationally verified.
Absolutely. The 580 BCE date came from a sample found deep in the excavation. And that's the beauty of Keeladi. It's this perfect marriage of culture, the poetry, and rigorous hard science.
Which is so important for modern travelers, right? People want authenticity. They want a story backed by fact.
Exactly. Credible scholarship is what gives a heritage site its real power.
So if I'm listening right now and I want to stand on that ground, what's the experience actually like?
Well, first, it's very accessible. It's only about 12 kilometers from the city of Madurai. But you do need to manage your expectations.
Right, this isn't the pyramids.
It's not. You're not going to see towering ruins. It's more subtle. You're walking through the actual excavation trenches, seeing the foundations of homes, the tops of those wells. It's a site that requires a bit of imagination.
And there's a museum now, too.
A fantastic one, built in the local Chettinad architectural style. And that's where the city really comes to life. You see the thousands of artifacts, the tiny gold ornaments, the dice they played with, the inscribed pottery.
It makes it so human. Looking at a game piece someone held in their hand 2,600 years ago.
It's the perfect complement to visiting Madurai's famous Meenakshi temple. The temple is grand, religious, medieval. Keeladi is older, secular, civic. It's the root system of the culture.
It really gives you the full arc of the history there.
It does. The site invites you to think about how societies thrive without empires, how languages can endure for millennia.
So to kind of bring it all together, what's the big takeaway? Why does this matter so much?
I think it's about resilience. It proves that civilization isn't a single straight line. It's not a story that just flows from one empire to the next. It's happening everywhere, all at once, in different ways.
Keeladi adds a vital, missing chapter to that global story.
A huge chapter. And is a powerful reminder that history isn't finished. We tend to think the map is drawn, that we know how the story goes.
But we don't.
Not at all. I mean, Keeladi lay under a coconut grove for 2 millennia. People walked over it every single day.
With no idea a whole city was waiting right under their feet. That's a great final thought.
It is. It just makes you wonder what else is out there, what other parts of our history are just waiting for us to find them.
If you decide to travel to Keeladi, we have a recommendation. 5 Senses Tours organizes tours across India which are immersive cultural experiences. You can email contact@fivesensestours.com. Note 5 is written as a numeral in contact at 5sensestours.com or WhatsApp to +919 845 677 446.